one of the first things you're going to do when embarking on this literature review process is to open up NVivo. As I mentioned earlier, I'm using NVivo for Mac, so if you've got a Windows version, your view will be slightly different. You can see here on the right hand side all the files that I've worked on before, but you're really going to be creating a new project, so you just click on Create New Project, give it a title, let's call it Literature Review Test. I'm going to just put this in my on my desktop, but you'll want to put it in an appropriate folder. You can put a description in there if you want to, but I'm quite happy with the title. So we create that and it will bring up your main screen. Once we've done that, we need to identify the appropriate articles or books or websites that we want to review to potentially add to the literature review. Now here's an article that I've downloaded called Macro Social Marketing by Anne-Marie Kennedy from the Journal of Macro Marketing 2016. Once you're happy that this article is appropriate for the literature review, we need to somehow file it within the NVivo system. Now the way I do that, or the way I recommend we do it, is to get the complete reference for the article in question. I actually use a reference management software. And I'm actually going to be doing another video on reference management software a bit later on. But essentially I've highlighted the article within my reference management software, and I've created the reference from it. So I've copied that across, and I now need to add this into NVivo. So if I go back to NVivo, I'm in internals for sources, and I want to create a new document. So it asks for the title of the document. Remember, it is Kennedy, so we've got here 2016. So it's created my first internal source, and I've then got my area which I can start clipping the appropriate elements of it. And the first one that I want to put in there is the complete reference, as I've stated earlier. So I've copied the complete reference, which I picked up from my reference management software, and I'm going to paste it in here. And I usually also clip the complete abstract, just to give me an idea of what this article was about. I now start reading the article and identifying the elements that I want to add to, or potentially add to, my literature review. So the first thing that I've picked up here is this element here, which I'm going to copy and paste into NVivo. So I've identified this as a potential element that could go into the literature review, and this is all to do with what Kennedy calls wicked problems. So I now want to make this into a node or a theme called Wicked Problems. But before I do that, I need to add in one element which is really important if you are thinking of doing a direct quote, and that is the actual page number. So I've picked this up from the article, and I just need to identify the page number that it's on. So it's on 354. So I put in there page 354. I highlight the whole sentence which I want to create into a node, and then right click. And what you can see here is a range of options, and the one that you want to focus on is code selection or node selection. And the code selection is a new node because you've not done any nodes at all at the moment. So I'm going to click on a new node, and then it's going to create a node property. So this I'm going to call Wicked Problems. You could give it a description and a colours, but I'm just going to leave it very simple and leave it as that, and then do done. Now this makes that particular sentence into a node called Wicked Problems. So I'm now ready to identify the next element of the article that potentially could be added to the literature review. So I've continued reading, and I've identified another set of statements that I want to add to the literature review file. See, I've highlighted it here. I copy it, and then I transfer it to NVivo. So I now paste it back in, put in the page number, then highlight it and right click. Now this time, because I want to give it the same node, I can just highlight existing nodes, and that will show me what exists. So I can just click on Wicked Problems again, and that's now created these two statements as a node called Wicked Problems. Now reading this, I've also thought that actually I'd like to give this another node. So you're not just restricted to one node, you can have as many nodes in there as you like. So I want to call this marketing system. So I can right click again, code selection, this time because it doesn't exist. Click on new node and then type in, and then you're done. You will notice, because I'm copying from a PDF file, it doesn't cover the whole page of your work area, and in some cases you can see that the words are brought together. Now if you're really finicky about the process, you can go in and change and put in the spaces as required. I'm not too bothered at this stage because it's more about capturing the information. Once I decide that I'm going to put it in my literature review, then I'll do the adjustments. This is all around trying to be as efficient and effective as possible. Now I've shut down the previous project I was working on and reopened the original literature review project that we saw at the beginning. I've sorted the internals by the number of nodes here. So in this example, the Luca Hibbert and McDonald's article, I've got 23 different nodes, but looking at the document below, I'm unable to tell what they are. What you need to do is to click on View and then Coding Stripes, and then you will see Select All Codings, and then on the right hand side you can see everything that's been coded with a particular node. If we click on highlight, it also shows you all the nodes that you have highlighted. In most cases, all the text will be highlighted in the work area. You can, if you want to, select specific nodes, select items, and then you will see, right, the ones in bold are the ones that are in the system. So I can click on, let's say, co-creation, select, and that's the bit that I've got about co-creation. What happens if you want to get rid of a code? You've made a mistake and you think, actually, I don't want this in the document. Okay, I'm going to actually choose an article which doesn't have too many items in it, just to illustrate how you uncode an item. So if we go to WISE 2000, I've got it highlighted, and you can see that this particular sentence is being coded as promotion. Now I decide that I don't want it to be coded, so go in there, and I'm just highlighting the A because I just want to show you the wrong way to do it first. So I highlight the A and then uncode selection. Now I was just trialing this now, so you can actually see recent codes in here, so you may not see this. The best thing to do is to go on to the uncode selection and existing nodes, and you'll get a list of items up here, and as you scroll down you will see highlighted promotions. That's the one that needs to come up, so I'm going to select that to uncode. Now what's happened is that I've gone from one node and one reference to one node and two references, because what's actually happened here, because I only had the A highlighted, it's taken out the code within the A. So that's not really what I wanted to do. In this case I wanted to get rid of the whole lot. All it's done is it's taken out the code on the letter A. So I'm just going to undo. What you need to do is highlight the whole item and then do uncode. Now the whole item has been uncoded. You can see here WISE has nothing on it, and the coding highlight and the coding strip has disappeared. That's what happens, or that's how you uncode an item if you need to. So I'm just going to undo that. What happens if you want to continue working on a document? Let's say you finished the day before and you've started a new day and you want to add to the WISE article. What you'll see is that as I try and click in on the data, I can't get into the workspace. That's because you need to check the edit box, which you'll find in the top right hand or the top right hand corner of the workspace. So you click on that, and then that gets rid of the branding stripes but not the highlighting. I'm just going to get rid of the highlight for a second. Now I can get in and add some data. Let me just put in a few words. Just as a warning, what has happened now is that it continues with the code from that area. Now one of the drawbacks, if I just get rid of edit again, you can only look at the branding stripes out of edit. You'll see that everything is highlighted as promotion. What you need to do is get rid of the code element to blah blah blah. So uncode, I'm just going to do promotion, and that takes it. Now I can continue writing, and when we look at the coding stripes, it hasn't been coded. That's just a word of warning for you to consider. What I want to do now is show you what you have to do if you decide that the node you've named is wrong and it should be given a name of a previous node. Now I've got a small example here where I've got two nodes, test 1 and test 2. Test 2 should have been test 1. If you have a small number of these, then what you have to do is delete the node and rename it that way, as I showed you a little bit earlier. But if you've done an analysis and you've got a number of these test 2s, rather than rename all the items that you've coded, the best thing to do is to go into nodes, look for the test items, and have it as a child of the item that you want to rename it to. What do I mean by that? Well, what you do is you drag the item that you want to rename, so test 2, and put it into test 1. Now what happens here is that you have a hierarchy. You can see I've got one source and one item. So this is the source, and that's the one item for the test. But within it, there's also test 2, as we can see here, one source, one item. But it should be part of test 1. So what I now need to do is to click on test 1, right click, and then aggregate coding from the child nodes. Now what happens here is that it's showing as I've got one source, this is my one source, but I've got 2 nodes within it, 2 test 1s. That's the best way of adding it without having to go in and delete all the test 2s and rename it. It becomes a child of test 1. And there you can see the branding stripe where it's included within it. Some of you who have used NVivo before may be aware that you can actually upload a whole PDF. So if I go to data, you can see I can upload a Word document or a PDF or a dataset, etc., etc. So if I were to click on that, it would say, right, what do you want to upload? Now when I first started this process, I actually, rather than taking the snippets, which I've encouraged you to do here, used to upload all the files. But the problem is, if you're going to do this for a literature review where you are literally reading hundreds of documents, it's going to make the platform cumbersome. And I found that it was very unstable and tended to crash. So if you are doing, let's say, a normal thematic analysis and you've got 1 or 2 PDFs, then it's all right to put that in there. But if you're doing a large literature review, do not put all the PDFs in there, because you might find that you'll lose your data. That's all I want to say for now about the process. Down below you'll see a link to my blog article which has a PDF of the process. But before I finish, I just want to summarize what we've done so far. So remember: 1. Create an NVivo project. 2. Identify the literature you want to review. 3. For each article, book or website, etc., create an internal source, or more specifically a document. 4. Give each source a name using the author and the year as the title. 5. Write the full reference at the top of the document. 6. Add the abstract to the document, or a summary of the source if it's a website. 7. Identify the words, sentences or paragraphs that you think will be useful. 8. Copy and paste these words, paragraph or sentences into the NVivo document. If it's a book, you're going to have to write it out. 9. Add the page number. This will be useful if you're going to do a direct quote. 10. Highlight the complete text you have added, then give it a node or a theme. Remember, right click on your mouse to do this. 11. Continue until you complete the whole review. And then finally 12, sort all your themes and nodes, then structure an appropriate literature review for your work. Many thanks. I hope you found this useful.